It might be hard to imagine anyone other than Tom Hanks in the role of Forrest Gump, or anyone other than Leonardo DiCaprio as Jack in Titanic. Other equally famous and successful actors auditioned for these roles, but for various reasons didn't end up starring in these films. It's rare for roles in major productions to be tailor-made for specific actors, which is why even the best of them often have to compete in auditions. Here are 10 famous films in which, for different reasons, leading roles narrowly slipped away from major stars. Welcome back to The Little Facts. Kindly give us a thumbs up and share your thoughts as you watch. Number 10. Gwen Stefani and Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt brought Mr. and Mrs. Smith to life on the big screen, famously falling in love during filming and later marrying. What many don't know is that singer Gwen Stefani also auditioned for the role of Jane Smith.
I feel like I almost got it.
I went to a lot of auditions. It was very competitive, and I wanted to do it, but I wanted to focus on music even more, Stefani said on The Howard Stern Show in 2016. By the way, at the time, Brad Pitt was married to Jennifer Aniston. He and Angelina Jolie began their romance while filming the movie, which led to Pitt's split from Aniston. Pitt and Jolie eventually married in 2014. Number 9. Eddie Redmayne and Star Wars. Oscar winner Eddie Redmayne revealed in an interview that he auditioned for the role of Kylo Ren in Star Wars: The Force Awakens, but the experience was catastrophically bad.
They don't let you read a script. They don't let you you have no idea what it is. I just knew it was for a Star Wars film and it was potentially to play a baddie.
So they handed me a scene from Pride and Prejudice, but told me I was auditioning for a villain. If you're like me, that means you start throwing in some ridiculous voice, Redmayne explained. It was hilarious. Nina Gold, who I owe a lot to because she's cast me in several films, was sitting there while I kept trying different versions of my voice with this Koopa, mimicking Darth Vader's breathing. After about 10 attempts, she finally asked, "Do you have anything else?" I just said, "No." As we all know, the role went to Adam Driver, but Redmayne later found his own place in a major franchise starring in Fantastic Beasts. Number 8. Emma Watson and La La Land. For a long time, rumors swirled that Emma Watson and Miles Teller would take the lead roles in Damien Chazelle's La La Land. However, the roles ultimately went to Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling. In an interview with SiriusXM's Town Hall, Watson explained that she had to turn down the role due to scheduling conflicts. It's one of those frustrating things when your name gets attached to a project too early and excitement and expectations build before anything is actually finalized, she said.
I knew, as we talked about before, that this wasn't a movie I could just sort of step into. I knew I had horse training, I knew I had dancing, I knew I had 3 months of singing ahead of me, and I knew I had to be in London.
It wasn't a project I could approach casually. I knew I had to commit fully and be present. So, because of the scheduling conflict, La La Land couldn't happen, Watson explained. Ultimately, Watson had already committed to playing Belle in Disney's live-action adaptation of Beauty and the Beast. At number 7, Tom Hiddleston and Thor. Before becoming Loki, Tom Hiddleston actually auditioned for the lead role in Thor. At the time, they were looking for relatively unknown actors so the audience wouldn't associate them with other roles. The rule was, if you were over 6 feet tall and had blonde hair, you could come and try out. I never even auditioned for Loki, I only auditioned for Thor. Which is crazy, Hiddleston shared in an interview with Jimmy Fallon in 2019. Recently, footage of his Thor audition surfaced online and quickly went viral, showcasing his attempt at wielding the hammer before ultimately landing the role of Loki. Number 6. Matthew McConaughey and Titanic. It might sound unbelievable, but Matthew McConaughey was in the running to play Jack in Titanic. The actor has confirmed this multiple times. I did a screen test with Kate Winslet, who landed the role of Rose, and they filmed us during the reading. It was essentially a camera test.
When I left, I was being glad-handed and slapped on the back like, you. And then there was a rumor that I got the role and didn't do it. This is false.
McConaughey shared on Rob Lowe's podcast. Instead, the part went to Leonardo DiCaprio, who became forever associated with the character of Jack. At number 5 is O.J. Simpson and the Terminator. Before Arnold Schwarzenegger became synonymous with the role, O.J. Simpson was nearly cast as the Terminator. At the height of his fame as a professional football player, Simpson was suggested by Orion Pictures to play the T-800, while Schwarzenegger was considered for the role of Kyle Reese. However, director James Cameron opposed the idea, believing Simpson was too nice and wouldn't be convincing as a menacing cyborg. Despite this, Cameron agreed to meet with Schwarzenegger, and that meeting changed everything. I went to lunch with him and was completely charmed, Cameron later recalled. He liked our script, but what struck me was that he never mentioned any of Reese's scenes, only those with the Terminator.
Because he looks much more believable as a killing machine.
As he talked, I thought, he'd make a great Terminator. He'd be like a human bulldozer. Or Jennifer Lawrence and Twilight. When the Twilight books were being adapted into films, Jennifer Lawrence was among the favorites to play Bella Swan. She once revealed that she auditioned for the role but had no idea what the project was about, as she only received 5 pages of the script to prepare.
I didn't really know what it was when you audition, when you're like, you know, like a run-of-the-mill actor. You know, we're all auditioning for all sorts of things. You just get like 5 pages.
Ultimately, the role went to Kristen Stewart. In an interview with Howard Stern, Lawrence reflected on the experience. I remember when the film came out, I saw Kristen Stewart on the red carpet with paparazzi following her everywhere. I had no idea Twilight would become such a big deal. For me, and I assume for her too, it was just another audition, but it turned out to be something completely different. A few years later, Lawrence had her own breakout moment, landing the role of Katniss Everdeen in the Hunger Games franchise. Number 3, Kurt Russell and Star Wars. Kurt Russell auditioned for the roles of both Han Solo and Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, with footage of his screen test still circulating online. I was in the final rounds, but I had a job offer for a Western series on ABC, Russell recalled. I asked George Lucas, "Do you think you're going to cast me?" And he said, "I'm not sure yet if I'll pair you with this guy or with these two." I needed work, so I took the Western. Clearly, the right decision was made, the actor said. At number 2 is Britney Spears and The Notebook. The romantic film The Notebook is remembered for the exceptional performances of Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams, but few know that Britney Spears was in talks for the lead role. "I would have been overjoyed to get that role," Britney later said, describing it as the best script she had ever read. And at number 1, John Travolta and Forrest Gump. John Travolta turned down the role of Forrest Gump to star in another blockbuster, Pulp Fiction. While both he and Tom Hanks, who ultimately portrayed Forrest Gump, were nominated for Oscars the following year, it was Hanks who took home the award. Despite this, Travolta has no regrets about his decision. "I don't regret not doing something that Tom Hanks did. I was doing something else that was equally interesting and fun, or not doing something Richard Gere did because I was doing something just as good," Travolta explained. "I feel good about the things I passed on because they allowed other careers to flourish, and I'm happy to share the wealth." On a side note, Bill Murray, Chevy Chase, and Matthew Broderick were also considered for the role. Joe Pesci was a contender for Lieutenant Dan, but Gary Sinise got the role. Dave Chappelle rejected the role of Benjamin Buford Blue, thinking the film would flop. Thanks for watching The Little Facts. Enjoy the video, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more fascinating stories and hidden gems. See you in the next one.